Yeah, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing as promised. Promised. That's what we're going to talk about. Bringing you another episode of Learn JavaScript with Foundry VTT. Really quick, let me check something real quick. Make sure. Okay, it looks like I've got good audio. At least it's making it look like I got good audio. So anyway, in our last episode, we talked about, I'm drawing a blank already. This is not good. We talked about callbacks. Aha, figured it out. As you can see, we're in version 10, build 291, D&D 5th edition. That really doesn't matter. And actually that brings something up. I did get a DM in Discord from someone, a private DM, I guess. And they were asking, with all this stuff going on with the OGL and, I guess you could say it seems kind of resolved, but I don't think it really is completely. And I can talk about that later. I don't want to get into that right now. But with everything that's going on with that, they were saying, I've invested so much money into D&D. I don't see being able to get into another system very feasible. And I'm thinking about doing another series, probably maybe on Thursday, when I'll actually release it. And it basically shows you that Pathfinder is actually a very easy thing to get into. And part of the reason for that is Paizo has a site called Archives of Nethys, something like that. And basically all of the rules, every rule, and bestiary, I'm not sure how to say that either, but all that stuff is available for free online. Now, of course, they want you to buy the books, which right now you can't because they sold 8 months of Pathfinder core rule books and stock, 8 months worth in 2 weeks because of this OGL thing that's been going on and the uprise. But anyway, they'd like you to do that, but they're actually nice enough to actually provide everything else on this Archives of Nethys. I wish I could remember its name. It's kind of weird. Nethys, maybe? But basically, it's everything. All the rules. You could create any character from the core rule book, from any of the other type of rule books and stuff like that. They have all the information there. It even tells you how to create characters. I mean, it's basically a digital version of everything, which is really cool. And even though that site is not by Pathfinder, Pathfinder allows it or gives them their blessing to actually host everything and provide links sometimes to it and everything. So anyway, that will probably be a series coming out fairly soon. And everything we're doing in here is not system specific at all. Everything we've done so far is not system specific because we haven't really accessed character sheet data and stuff like that and did anything with it that was meaningful. So yeah, everything we've done up to this point has not been system specific. It could be D&D, it could be Warhammer, it could be Dungeon Crawl Classic, it could be Pathfinder, it could be what's their sandbox one, Simple World Builder, all that fun stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into our thing, and we're going to talk about promises, which was kind of funny because I wasn't actually thinking about saying, I promise you that I promised that we would have this episode. that was kind of funny. All right. I guess I got a dry sense of humor. Okay, so we're going to talk about promises. So we're going to do 09B, and I'm going to be completely forthright and honest with you guys. I probably don't know everything there is to know, or maybe even a quarter of it. I just want to give you an idea of what they are. Anything I'm teaching here, I'm not professing to be the, stop here and this is everything you'll ever need to know. He's the guru kind of thing. I'm just sharing what knowledge I have, hopefully explaining it in a way that makes it easier for you to understand some of the things and be able to run with that. There will definitely be things, with the loops, with conditional logic and all that stuff and functions even, where you might, say, oh, but can I do this? And then you can go do the research and stuff. It's just give you the basic understanding. So let's go ahead. Promises. Promis. Promise. Does it have ES? ES? Promises. I think that's it. Promises. I think that looks okay. All right, let's go and shrink this down. Go grab our template real quick. Because I'm a slow typer, I just grab it and then paste it. And it's not a lot of stuff. So here we go. We have our promises, and let's go ahead and F12, make sure everything's fitting okay. And we'll jump right in here and start talking about it. So promises are kind of like, I think I use what is it, a metaphor? I don't know why I'm drawing so many blanks lately. Maybe I'm getting too old. But anyway, promises are kind of like where you go to a fancier sit-down restaurant. For example, here in Utah, we have Texas Roadhouse, which is a steakhouse. And you check in, they give you this little disc. They haven't recently, they've kind of switched to a texting thing, but this is still the same diff. They give you this little disc that will buzz and has little lights in it when it's your turn to be seated. And once they give you this disc or a promise that you are going to eventually be seated, there's basically 3 states that promise will sit in. One is going to be in the pending state while it's just sitting there. One will be in the fulfilled state, and one will be in the rejected state. The rejected state is generally you're looking at your watch going, hey, they close in 5 minutes and this thing still hasn't gone off. Maybe they forgot about you or something else, something went wrong. So we're going to talk about that, and maybe let's go ahead and just kind of jot this down. So a promise, Promises, promises are basically an object that has 2 unaccessible properties to it. So let's, promises are objects that, trying to think if this is the right verbiage I want. Promises are objects that have 2 UNACCES. Is there 2 S's? SS ABLE, unaccessible. That doesn't look right to me. Properties, PROPERTIES. And these 2 properties are, one is called state, so the state of the promise, and the second one is the result that is returned. So let's kind of make a little table here. We're going to say STATE. So we're going to have our state here. I don't think, can I hit tab? We'll do like 3 tabs, seem pretty good. And then we'll have result. And we'll go ahead and do another comment. So the first state, like I said, is actually called pending. And this is when a promise has not been yet fulfilled. It's in the pending state. So if a promise is in a pending state, if it has to return something, it actually is in undefined, is its returned value. The next state we have is called fulfilled. I should probably keep these all the same type of, we'll just do double quotes. FULFILLED. So fulfilled is the second state, and that didn't work very well. This is going to return basically the result you wanted, right? So the EXPECT expected result. So that would be the result value. And the final state, if you were listening a little earlier, is going to be rejected. So this is either rejected blatantly, or maybe it's actually because of an error or something, you know, if access was not authorized or rejected or whatever. That's what you're going to get here. And this is basically going to return an error object. So now let's talk about our promises. So let's go ahead and set up a promise, and the way you do it is you use the new keyword to set up a promise. And we're going to make it a constant. We're going to say const, and we're going to say my promise, PROMISE, right? And let's go ahead and say it equals a new, and then we use uppercase P, ROMISE, so promise. And basically what's passed into here will be our function that has our, what happens if it's a failure kind of thing like that. So we're going to kind of simulate that it's received something, and we're going to kind of simulate whether that gets rejected or not by just using a random number. So when we pass in this function, we have our two states that we talked about. We have a resolved state, right? So this is the resolved state, and we have our errored state. So basically the fulfilled and rejected, but they're actually called resolved and also called ERRED. I don't know if that can be named anything or not. I might have to experiment with that and see if it can. And then, let's see, then we have our function body, like a show. And did it give us, wait, it didn't give us the closey. There we go. Got to make sure we have everything right. So in here, we're going to have just basically a random number. So let's just do const, and we'll use RESULT. So we're going to assign to a result, and we're going to use just a random number between 1 and 2. If it's a 1, we'll call it a success, or it will resolve as a fulfilled. If it is a 2, it will return an error. So let's just do that. So const, we're going to do math dot floor, because we want it just to round, and then we're going to do math random, whoops, not parentheses, sorry, RANDOM. We're going to do random and do that, and then we're going to say that we're going to do times 2, because we want it to be between 1 and 2. And then we have that, and then we're just going to add 1 to it, because it's actually going to return a number between 0 and 1, right? And it'll be some kind of decimal. So this will simply take it and will return either a 1 or 2. Well, it'll set result to 1 or 2. All right, so then what we want is have our condition here. We're going to go ahead and say if RESULT result equals 1. If that happens, then we're going to RESOLVED. So we're going to do our little function here, resolved. And resolved, or that hidden property of resolved, we are going to assign it the word, whoops, we'll call it crit success. CRITI. Critical or crit? Let's just do crit. SUCCESS. and maybe some bangs. There we go. And then anything else, which should be our to value, will be else. And we'll go ahead and do that. And we're going to set our errored, E-R-R-O-R-E-D, errored, and we'll just call this crit failure. Crit F-A-I-L, F-A-I-L-U-R-E, sorry. And we'll have a couple, 3 bangs after that one too. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and how do we actually access what the thing is? Because now we've created this promise, which is kind of a special function. And this, for example, what this could be is accessing an external database, maybe accessing a character sheet. And, you know, the failure would be that it goes to access it, but that it doesn't exist. So it would come back with a failure that it doesn't exist. Whereas if it exists, then it will go ahead and do whatever, you know, the crit success part of this function would be. So, excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and say my, and how we actually access that value, I think this was uppercase, how we actually access what our result was is we can do one of two things. We can, sorry, not one of two things. I'm looking at my notes and getting confused. We use the keyword then. So we have our promises of this thing right here, and we can put this .then on it, and then actually have in parentheses what to do in both cases. So I'm going to go ahead, just so we have 2 lines here. We're going to do first our function, and we're going to do funct function, and it's going to have value because this is going to return our value, right? If it's a success because it's resolved, we'll actually get a value back. If not, we get an errored object. So we're going to, if we get the function value, then we're going to go ahead and do our, I need to check some real quick. We need to use our curly braces here. And instead of spacing this, just because it's really short, I'm going to do it on one line. So now we're just going to output basically that value. Console.log, and we're going to output our value. And then we'll go ahead and do that. And then we're going to do the same thing with error. Function, and this will be ERROR. And basically the exact same thing. In fact, I could take this, copy it, and paste it. Oh, I guess I can't hold down Control and actually paste it, can I? Darn it. All right, so Control C, Control V. And instead of value that we have here, we're going to go ahead and do ERROR. So this will output. So what this will actually be is if I was writing this and I actually want to do something, inside this right here would be the code I want to execute on a success. So if this were a character sheet, that, and this, I messed up one thing. This is not a semicolon. This is actually a comma. And that's not a semicolon. So anyway, technically what we're doing is these are the 2 properties of our function that we're creating here. In this then, we have our first one, comma, our second property. And it's kind of the same thing as we're seeing here. Here's our promise. We're calling the function. We have the resolve state. We have the errored state. And that's kind of what this is. I'm just kind of doing it on other lines so that we don't get word wrapping and stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. But inside this guy right here, this would basically be our code if it was successful. So if SUCCESSFUL, and this code down here obviously would be our code if failed. Code if errored maybe, or failed. No, let's say failed. So in this case, what this is going to do, what we have set up here right now, is it's going to do this promise, and the first thing it's going to do is it's going to generate a number between 1 and 2, right? When that number is generated, then it will say, okay, if it was 1, we'll call it a crit success. If it was 2, we're going to go ahead and call it a failure. And that's what it's going to do. So as you can see, we have a function here that will return called resolved and one called errored. Those are what are being assigned to the function, so to speak. Then when we use the dot then keyword property, whatever the dot thing is, then we have access to those two values, those hidden unaccessible properties. This lets us actually see what they are. So let's go ahead and try and run this and hope everything works right. And like I said earlier, if I mess this up, I really apologize. If you have a better way of explaining it, or if I'm missing stuff, feel free to leave that in the comments down below. I would love to get your input. So we're going to go ahead and exit it, or execute it. And here we're getting a promise, async function anonymous. Let me see if I can figure out where it is. So I have const by promise, new. What lines does it say it's in? 13. Oh, I don't have lines on this. Hold on. I forgot. Since I went to the new one, I don't think I actually, in Ace Library, show invisibles, show line numbers. Huh. I don't know why it's not showing line numbers. Is it not big enough or something? No? Not sure why, but so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 13's right around here. Did I miss? Maybe this is where I missed it. Result equals 1. Resolved crit success, errored crit failure. That all looks right according to my notes. And down here, all right, so let me go check the notes again. Uncaught in promise, syntax error, unexpected identifier. I didn't set anything to async. So in-game Foundry.js, it's definitely got to be this on 13. So let's just double check it again. So this, I don't know why. I'm gonna have to look into why it's not showing line numbers. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So actually, it could be in that. Did I do my thing right? So result, const result equals math.floor, parenthesis, math.random times 2, parenthesis, plus 1. So that's right. If result equals 1, resolve equals crit success, else crit failure. That's right. Oh, I see it. It's may promise, not my promise. All right, go and save that. Gotta do this again. I forgot. I closed it. Why is that not sorting right? So many weird things going on. All right, so let's try it now. Maybe this should work. F12. And clear it and run it. We're still getting an error. So my promise, if I click on that, my promise then, function, parenthesis, that should be right. Function error. And in my code I wrote example, I actually had the little semicolons there, but that really doesn't matter because we only have one line. I did also have a comma here, but I don't think that would be it. It's got to be, oh, maybe const, C-O-N-S-T. I bet you guys caught that too. All right, let's try this yet again. There we go. So right now we're getting crit failure. So obviously we did not get a 1. So it did this. When it came to the promised resolution, it ends up saying, oh, I returned, or errored actually has a value not resolved. Therefore, it does nothing for the for this one, and it does this one instead. So it says, yep, this is the one. I still don't think that's actually needed. So if we run it again, you'll see now we got 2 crit failures. Now we got a crit success, 2 crit success, another crit failure, crit success. So really complex. I'm sorry for not really having a very in-depth way of looking at this. To be honest, it's actually quite confusing. And the technology, from what I've seen, the promise is kind of moved a little bit further away. And what's the main thing to be used now is like the async and await, which is also kind of confusing. But I'm going to do my best to explain it. So hopefully this kind of helped you a little bit. It always helps to type things correctly, which I don't do all the time because I'm not a very good typer at all. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this all the same. If you did, be sure to leave a, oh, that's why. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Click the little notification bell. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. And don't forget to tell other people about my channel. I'm checked out. If they like what they see, can sub, and we can grow the channel. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.